Okay, I got a little surprise back in the shop. This is I got the Bobcat out of here. This has been in the back of my mind. I feel like this thing should run. So I'm gonna do some tests on it, just to check a few things out. We've checked from compression, we've checked timing. I've had the gear case apart on the front of the engine. Nothing we've looked at looks wrong, and that's the problem. And I don't remember, I think I've got to pull the carburetor, which Eric rebuilt the carburetor, probably needs removed anyway. I don't know, him and Chucky don't get along with carburetors too well, so maybe I may need to look into that, how he rebuilt it. But honestly, I don't think it has a carburetor issue right now. It's got some other issue. This was in the shop almost all last summer. Eric found this thing, he got it cheap. So, the old boy that he bought it from said the engine had been rebuilt, but he couldn't get it started. It took Eric half the summer to find a starter for it, because I suspect what happened is the guy he bought it from probably burned the starter up trying to get it started. I didn't need to pull that off, did I? And those are 5/8. But I'm going to try to do a few tests on it that maybe will help me understand if the valve train is working right, correctly, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, now we have plenty of light, right? Hopefully we can all see what's happening. And we know that we just fired on number one. Number one's valves are loose. So we should be going to the bottom of the stroke on number one. And then and while this piston's coming down, number four should be open. Okay, we're starting to open the number one. Number one exhaust valve starting to open. I wish I knew exactly where it was in the stroke on the engine. So, that is your cam timing. There's only two gears, crankshaft and camshaft. They run opposite directions. Now, if I remember right, I think I did pull the cam gear off last time I had this part, because I thought the same thing. We got a problem. But it would appear that that's right. And this is where this is where I went with it before. It's like, well, I pulled this off, checked it, everything looked good. How can you be wrong if that's the right way it's on there? So I'm out here messing around with this old welder, the Airco, and I took the cam gear off. It seemed to me like the cam timing was coming out with the it seems like the camshaft is running late, is what it seemed to me like. So I'm trying to verify whether or not we've got top dead center as actual top dead center. And what I've got here is I've got the cam gear off, so the camshaft's not turning now, so I don't get a false reading on that. So all I'm measuring is whether the piston's going up or the piston's going down. And the way I can tell is I've got some, it's kind of hard to see, I've got some liquid in here, and I just verified, I think I got top dead center on number one right now, and when that's the case, it looks like our crankshaft key is at the top. On a flathead engine, you cannot stick a screwdriver in on top of the piston. The spark plug hole is above the valves. So if you're trying to find top dead center on an overhead valve engine, you can usually just put something in the spark plug hole and just very gently turn it over until you see the screwdriver or the rod or whatever you put in there stop coming up and start to go down. You can't do that on a flathead, so I kind of had to try to figure out a way to do it. And because I'm not sure how the timing mark is on the flywheel, and I wasn't sure if the flywheel could be put on more than one way. I don't know who built this engine, so I thought, well, maybe the top dead center mark is off, because we were timing off of the top dead center mark. So now I'm back to the, it seems that I verified that. So I'm going to show you what happens on this water. Maybe. If you can see the water there. Focus. If I turn this now, the water's going to go down. Every time I turn, it'll go down. If I turn too fast, it'll probably suck it all into the cylinder. So I'm just turning. But you can see the water go down. Of course, it's kind of hard to hold the camera when I'm doing this, but when the water's going down, that means we're on the downstroke. And when we hit the bottom, the water should stop moving for just a little bit. And that's about right there. No, we're still going down, causing a little bit of suction there. Now we're at bottom dead center. And now you see the water start to come back up. So now we're on the upstroke on. And of course you can see the cam key is going to come around on top. But when we get up here close to the top, the water stops moving, and you can actually feel the engine kind of. What happens is you've got running mate cylinders on here. So whenever this gets real easy to turn, that means our center two pistons are at bottom dead center, and our end pistons are at top dead center. So there's a brief period of time there that everything moves really easy. Okay, so that's kind of where I'm at on this. Is I'm verifying that the timing, the TDC mark is actual top dead center. It looks like it lines up. It seems like it lines up. So I'm gonna say that everything with the flywheel is good. So I can quit looking there. Now I still have an issue of when I put the timing gear back on and I time everything up the way that the marks show. And I'll show you the timing gear. It actually has two marks here, two dents in the gear. And these are supposed to coincide with the one dent in this gear. Now I'm seeing another dent here, and I'm wondering if this gear, if somebody has timed off of the wrong dent. They had it painted. I didn't paint that, so whoever worked on it painted it. So this could be the right. By golly. Because usually, and that's what I thought was odd the other, just a minute ago, is when I was looking at this, usually when you time an engine, your cam gear lines up with your cam gear should line up with your crankshaft gear at top dead center. It shouldn't be off. It shouldn't be odd. So I think I found the problem. I think that's it. I'm gonna put this together and I'm gonna see what happens. Shoot, this is cool. Okay, I want to show you. There's actually two marked teeth on here. There's one that's to the right of the cam key if you're facing the engine, and there's one to the left. And I believe we have this one timed correctly now. Now, another odd thing I found about this engine is when we were timing it, the book says to time off number 4. Whenever we would try to time off a number 4, it didn't seem like the camshaft was in the right position. and this verifies that it's not. So we were actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teeth over from our timing mark, and I'm not sure how many teeth are on there. I'll need to count that and do the math on it, but so we weren't even close on our timing. We were 7 teeth off, and that was giving us, it looked like we should be timed on number 1 on our flywheel mark, and that doesn't make sense because the book says time off number 4. Now when I look at the camshaft, when I've got this engaged here, we are loose on number 4 and number 1. Now, the reason would be we're top dead center on compression on one, and we're fixing to start opening a valve on the next one. And I'm gonna bet you that the valve on number 1 starts to open on the intake. Yes. So that means we are on power stroke number 4. And that makes more sense. The book lines up with that. That makes sense with everything the book says. Now, I did find some information online, and I misunderstood it, apparently, because the crankshaft gears on these engines, on the 4 cylinders and 6 cylinders, and even the cam gears, I think, are the same. So they use the same gears. Now, what they did different when they made a 6 cylinder, they obviously put a different timing mark on that crank gear. This engine has baffled me, and this has really been it's one of those things. I look at it and I can't figure it out. It bugs the crap out of me because these are simple. There's no computers, there's no electronics. This is all just an engine, and finding a second timing mark, that just happened. I thought it was, the way I understood it, there was a second mark on the camshaft gear. Actually, it's on the crankshaft gear. So the crankshaft gear has 2 timing marks. One is right of top dead center, or right of the keyway, which on a 6-cylinder engine, everything's, you got 6 cylinders, so you got 3 sets of running mate cylinders, not 2. So everything's off on a, what is that, a 30 degree, I don't know. Anyway, I'd have to look it up too. But anyway, this makes sense. This is going to work. This thing's going to run. Now, another thing that's interesting, let me turn this back here a little bit. When I was trying to time it before, and I don't know if it's going to be that way now, but my timing mark for my magneto gear, it still doesn't really line up here. But anyway, I've got to retime the magneto gear. I've got to put the gear cover back on. Anyway, I'm excited now. This thing's going to run. So I got to get it together, and I'm going to put the nut back on. I'm pretty sure this sucker's going to work now. Anyway, cool. All right, Eric, after I figured out the plug wires was in the wrong spot on the mag, well, it ain't going to start now. Ah, a little cold-natured. She runs. The problem we're having, Steve, is we can't seem to get any difference between high and low on the, they call this the range. Well, no, they call this the, it's like the open current voltage on the Lincoln. It's a rheostat. This is the selector. But when we change this up and down, we don't get any change here. We're getting about 40 volts. And I'm not sure why. We've cleaned the commutator. I believe this is the one that gives us the voltage. It's a single brush. There's the large brushes, there's 2 sets of these. But anyway, if you got any ideas on what would cause that to not be feeding any voltage, let me know. Thank you. Here's a look at the Airco. Big heavy cast pieces, big copper armature. This machine I don't believe has AC power, so I think it's a generator. I may be wrong on that, but the tag here says that you got 80 volts DC for 110 volt universal tools and photo flood lamps. It says set your controls for maximum output and open the vent valve on vacuum chamber to run engine at full governor speed. This is the, you know, these are the, this changes your open current voltage just like a Lincoln. And this is your range selector, which this one has 6 different ranges. 40 to 65, 50 to 90, 75 to 120, 100 to 170, 140, 240, and 200 to 300. And I believe this dude will put out 300 amps. Duty cycle, 40 volts, 60% duty cycle. And not sure what that 1350 full load speed. This one runs 200 RPM faster than a Lincoln, and that may be because it's a 2-brush generator. I don't quite know all the details on that. So some of you guys know way more about it than I do. I know the Miller is a similar machine. Steve Warner's kind of given me some ideas on. He actually helped me troubleshoot this machine. It was welding, but you couldn't change the voltage, so I had to pull the rheostat out, and we cleaned it, and we sprayed in some seafoam and kind of sanded off the grit, and we got that thing working. And this dude will run hot. I believe it'll outweld it, or I don't know if it'll outweld it. It'll burn hotter than a SA200 from what I can tell. So pretty cool machine. My Lincoln has a F163. This is a F140 Continental, so it's a similar motor. It's an older version. I don't know when this machine was built, but there's no rectifiers that I can see in this machine. This is what they call a carbon. Oh, I went blank. What is this? I'll think of it here in a minute. This is actually for your high idle when you're welding. It controls your idle speed, basically. So whenever current goes through there, it opens up the vacuum and it allows it to go full throttle. And I haven't checked the RPM on it. It might be a little bit off. The voltage, I never could get 80 full volts. We were about 75, so the RPM may be a bit off on the engine. But anyway, this whole thing is it's a pretty cool old welder. And from what we know about it, it was built by P&H Crane Company, and this was I'm not sure what that sign used to say. Something about take care of it. Cool grill. I mean, you just don't see stuff like this anymore, but it's a Airco Hornet Special, and If somebody knows anything about these, let me know. Tell me what you know about them. We'd be happy to have the information. Try to get up here on the serial model number. We can't find a whole lot about these machines, but anyway, it's cool, pretty cool to get something like this running. It's amazing the technology they had in the 40s. It was foolproof, it was solid, it was indestructible. And nowadays we got stuff made with plastic and digital computers, and I don't know that I could get something like that running in 60 years. It'll probably be in a junk pile. But anyway, just makes me pretty happy to get something like this back in running order. It still needs some work. I'm not sure what its future holds, but if I have much to do with it, it'll probably be staying around somewhere, either here or Eric's shop, or hopefully it won't go far. Anyhow, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it.